Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The summer's around the corner, and that does a lot of damage. The heat, the rains, to our homes and our offices. But no worries, Water Cleanup of Florida is there for you, no matter if you have fire or water issues with your home or office. 954-579-0356 is that number to call. If you have any issues with, again, your home or office, Mike, Robert, George, their entire team has well over 60 years of combined experience. They were there for my wife and I with our townhouse. They'll be there for you. Their communication abilities is unmatched with service industry companies, and I've dealt with a lot of them with a lot of different issues with our various homes. And it's always fun trying to wrangle them, trying to get them to come, and trying to get them to be straight up with you. Not with Water Cleanup of Florida. They check all the boxes in that regard. Plus, you just do a heck of a great job. And on top of that, with licensed, certified, insured contractors on staff, not only do they get the job done in a timely fashion, it also looks brand new. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-579-0356. Check them out on their website, wcufl.com, or at Water Cleanup FL on all the socials. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Miami Heat have been the gutsy franchise in South Florida for the last 20-plus years. They tried. They failed. The Boston Celtics were fully healthy, all but one game. The Heat were not. The Heat were down. Their top two offensive players for most of this, the later part of the season, in Butler and Rozier. Then they were out. Hawkins Jr., one of their integral young pieces on the team. Duncan Robinson was not himself. He was on the floor, but he was not good. He was not even involved. And on top of that, you had Tyler Herro playing and Caleb Martin playing, and they were a disaster most of this season. Bam did his best, but it was not enough. The Boston Celtics closed out the Miami Heat in 5 games. We talked about that and the future for the Miami Heat here at the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
I had a funny feeling that's where you're going to begin, Lubie. Let's let this play out. Let's let it sink in. To the great Pat Riley, let us bow our heads in prayer. Pat, we hope you can do something this offseason that may be of some real significance, besides telling us how tough Jimmy Butler is in the postseason. How he makes his vital transformation and becomes playoff Jimmy. Where the fuck is he the rest of the time in the regular season? Maybe if he paid more attention to that, we wouldn't be sitting there as the 8th fucking seed again. Unbelievable. All right, welcome to the show. It was a star-crossed season of sorts for the Miami Heat, was it not?
Shitty season. It's funny because I remember, everyone remembers the end of last season. We're pretty good about being honest here. I remember after that Hawks game.
That wasn't for Andy, by the way.
No, Andy's doing.
He's still with us.
Andy's doing strong.
Yeah.
He actually was getting out of the hospital, thank God.
Is he getting out?
Yeah, he said yesterday he was going to be getting out today.
He found a bondsman? I think you need a bail bondsman to get out.
He probably does. He was there like a month. I do remember after that Hawks game last year, literally being here going, just end the fucking season already, please. I'm fucking sick of this season. Because it was very similar to this season. A lot of injuries, a lot of, they look good. Oh, now they suck because everyone's injured. And then they went on that ridiculous run. So it was like, okay, cool. This year did not have that. It was Butler that was out instead of Herro. And you saw the difference in the team when Butler plays as opposed to Herro.
Tyler Herro with the burden of having to carry a team. Would you say inconsistent is a fair word to attach to that? Inconsistent, or are you counting on him having a lousy game? And he surprises you when he measures up. What do you think? You're not the biggest Tyler Herro fan.
I think Herro has a lot of... Well, I don't know if he has potential anymore. I think he is what he is at this point. But I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid player. I think he was better than the banter of the last trade-off season where they were comparing him to guys that aren't even starters in the NBA. And if you look at his stats, he's borderline all-star, and that's fine. He sucks in the playoffs. I mean, he just, outside of the fight, it's so funny. The bubble finals, he was fantastic. Or the bubble playoff run, he was fantastic. That's 4 years ago now. Like, ever since then, he's either been hurt or horrible in the playoffs. And that's what this year was. Look, Bam brought his effort last night. I can't be mad at him. But Caleb Martin, who could have been the Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year, was nowhere to be found in these fucking playoffs. And Tyler Herro had one game, And last night they needed him desperately. They weren't going to win, but it was like, okay, let's at least be in it for a little bit, make it sort of fun to watch. He sucked. Like, he was fucking useless. Yeah. And it was like, dude, you're getting outplayed by Derek White. And all year, Boston Celtics fans were trying to tell people, Derek White's better than Herro. I was like, no, he's not. It was this series. Like, he was vastly
far more
better
consistent, you would have to say. And more capable of adapting to the role that he has to play in any given game. Where, a couple of nights ago when he scored the 38, he was being called upon to be that scorer because he was on fire. Couldn't miss. We've seen Herro go through some streaks like that, but few and far between by comparison to any sort of barometer that you would want as a real measuring stick of whether a player was a consistently solid NBA player. Herro, in certain circumstances, it looks like he could be very good, but the shooting percentage, this always bothered me about Herro, Lubie. You know, I've alluded to this many times.
Yep.
And you'd think it would be something that you would let go of, but it always troubled me about the whole Tyler Herro thing, was that he shot below 40% from three-point range in his season at Kentucky.
Yes.
Now, he's on a team there at Kentucky where naturally you have to think that it's not like you can guard one guy.
No, you get great shots.
So you're getting, from three-point range, you're getting the so-called, and I almost hate this terminology, quality looks.
I said great shots because I hate quality looks. I think that's
quality looks.
Stupid. What does that mean? Quality?
It means you're wide fucking open.
Is he wide open? Like, because you can have a guy on you, but be a quality look.
Quality looks. Yeah. But he was very inconsistent. I mean, that low percentage bothered me because you're talking about a very easy shot for any outside perimeter shooter.
Yep.
The 3-point college, high school shot is nothing. I mean, I wish it was there when I was playing ball because, instead of averaging 3 points a game, I might have been able to average 4. But no, I wasn't going to change the scope of my career, but no, I mean, Andy can appreciate this. He's a chucker from the outside. That little 19-footer is nothing. Nothing.
No, especially if you're wide open. Like, are you kidding me?
Now you move it back to pro distance, a little bit more prohibitive. You could expect maybe percentages to go down, but while he may shoot higher than 40%, I want to say, what is he an above 40% 3-point shooter, Tyler Herro?
Herro? I'll look it up. I don't think he is. I think that's the problem. Is his shooting percentages. He's had moments, but in the playoffs, again, remember, this isn't the regular season. In the playoffs, he's been a fucking disaster. Like, he's nothing like he was 1 of 8 last night.
And the truth is, I mean, let's face it, it wouldn't matter that much what Tyler Herro did. I think he bonked his first 10 shots, but so they could have been in a game. I actually turned away from it. It was sort of close about midway through the first quarter, and you thought, maybe there's a half a shot here that he can hang in there, but he's so depleted. Losing Jaquez Jr., this was another guy that was scoring 13 points a game in the postseason, and it was certainly giving them some kind of a spark on the offensive end. At least he was creating things also. He may not have been scoring 20 points a game, but the fact that they had to pay attention to him and he was penetrating, driving into the paint, creating things for other guys, what was an asset, and without that, I mean, they really had nothing to offer.
Well, that's the thing is Herro, Martin, and Highsmith. For whatever, look, the rest of the league may not know. The Heat fans love those 3 guys. Yeah. Those 3 guys have had moments. At the end of the season, Highsmith was actually playing really well for them. Those 3 guys were useless these last 2 games. Like, look, most of the series, and it was like, it was out there to be had. It wasn't like the Celtics were playing 1990s New York Knicks defense. Like, there were lots of shots there. Like, they were getting.
It didn't even look like they were trying on defense. They were essentially just saying, "Go ahead and shoot."
Yeah, because he couldn't hit the side of a bar in this entire series. Like, they had the one game where they looked like Reggie Miller in the mid '90s as a team. But the Warriors in their heyday, like in every other game, they couldn't hit the side of a fucking barn. Like, their shooting was so bad, and the Celtics did just enough. And last night they couldn't fucking miss. So, I mean, I expected them to get killed last night. And then once Jaquez was out, it was just at that level. Like, in the second quarter, you're down by 30. It's like, Jesus, guys.
People are always going to, think that, hey, they pulled off that miracle in game number 2. So here you're getting plus 650. I had a friend of mine call me right at the last minute saying, hey, can you get a bet down for me? I want to bet Heat money line. So I said, look, I don't have any of these sources. I don't subscribe to any of these apps that I could bet on. It would be too dangerous for me, whether it was horses or sports. But I'll book the action. Whatever. What do you want? Well, whatever you want on the Heat on the money line, I'm willing to book. I would have paid him the plus 650 because it appeared that there was no chance. So that's over. Now what happens, Lubie? This is your favorite thing about covering basketball. And with apologies to the great Jim Sarney, who's already nauseated that we've been spending the first 10 minutes of the show in a Heat game last night. Why doesn't Jim like men's basketball? I mean, he constantly was alluding to the fact that the women outdrew the men in the tournament in terms of viewers. Not sure how significant that was overall. Ticket prices, I mean, you're talking about selling 70,000 tickets versus 15.
Yeah.
So naturally, the ticket prices for the women's game were at much more of a premium than they were when you can go to a stadium and watch a game. That's really bogus, too, huh? That they hold these championship games in the Final Four in stadiums.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But was that insane? You can't see shit if you're a fan.
You can't see anything, and it changes the shooting. It's usually shitty shooting for like at least a half of the game. The first game, because the depth is ridiculous. Like
basketball is not supposed to be played in atmospheres and environments like that. Why not just play it outside on the ship like they do at the beginning of the season there when they go on that aircraft carrier? But, I mean, remember we were behind the basket in the press row, which was already getting priority over regular patrons at the arena that night, and we were so far away from the basket that you couldn't tell what the hell was going on out there.
You couldn't see anything.
No idea. You're at the game and you have no idea what's happening. You're having to watch it on your phone like an asshole, and you're thinking, at most sporting events, I always find that comical. It's very common if you're watching like a baseball game, especially, but Marlins games even more so.
They did the thing.
Where people have a seat right behind home plate. They could be calling balls and strikes, but they're on their phone the whole time. And I'm thinking, whatever you paid to go to this game and the hassle that you went through to get to the stadium and driving in traffic there in Miami, do you really, do that just so you can sit on your phone all night?
Exactly.
You could do that while you're sitting on the fucking toilet seat at home.
Yep, 100%.
Who needs this? Right? That's fairly common. I mean, you're seeing people in front row seats and they can't get off their phone. It's very, very addicting, this thing. Be careful. I mean, this is a thing that's going to kill you. As my friend said to me, a longtime bookmaker said, worst rat in the world, right here. Unbelievable. Lefty. And that was the advice from Lefty. Don't be saying things into your cell phone. But you really don't want to be on them while you're at a sporting event. All right, so that's over. Kevin Durant, does he come to the Miami Heat? Yes or no, Mike Lubie? And are you in favor? Kevin Durant, if they zero in on Durant.
I mean, they've done it before. Look, to me, it's funny. People say he's washed. I think he still averaged high 20s.
He's far from washed up, Kevin Durant.
I think he still averaged high 20s. The team was a disaster. And again, Durant's had chances to come to South Florida. And the Heat have wanted him. And the Heat were usually in his top 2 or 3, but he didn't push to come to the Heat. We said it going into the season, the Suns have no defense, and you just put 3 scorers together.
They didn't really. I mean, Durant, is he considered a big man? Because he's big in terms of height, but he plays more like a small.
No,
forward.
he's a wing. He's a wing.
Yeah.
But he can play defense.
But they had no real big man.
No, they had no big, and the 3 guys they had don't play like Booker. For all he does on offense, he doesn't do shit on defense. I mean, so that's was their Achilles heel. They couldn't stop anybody.
Every offensive player, though, is offended if you imply for a second that he doesn't play any D.
Well, Booker doesn't. I mean,
yeah.
And look, what's funny about Durant is most of his career, people have questioned his defense. He actually plays decent defense, but Beal doesn't. Beal doesn't do anything defensively.
No, and Beal didn't do enough offensively to make you feel like that was some great.
He was hurt most of the year, which he did most of his career. So that was a disaster. That was weird that he even. He liked the Phoenix area, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's close to the West Coast, and because he wants to be near LA. He's like a pseudo LeBron kind of a thing. He loves the tech world. I don't know. I just what the Heat need is someone that can score. That's their issue. They actually will play.
It wouldn't hurt him any, right, to have Durant on the roster. Depending on what they lost in the process. So, is he a free agent now, or they have to trade?
No, he's there, but. I don't know. What I found interesting is the Ishbia guy. I guess he's the owner. They were calling him the governor. I don't even know what that means. For the Suns, said we're not going to blow it up, and I was like, why? Like, what are you holding on to? You did twice now. Have gone all in different ways.
Yeah,
and you did get to the finals at least when you went and got Chris Paul, and you were up on the Bucks, and then you got bludgeoned, and all you've done is go backwards since then. Like, why would you? Booker's actually still young enough that why would you not start over? You know, like this isn't
the embarrassing fashion in which they were handled by Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean,
when you have other teams, like that in the West, with Oklahoma City being a young team that's on the rise, and while you're seeing, the dismantling of and the run of the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers don't look like they have the goods. Phoenix looks like they're even behind those two teams, even though they finished ahead of them in the standings in terms of having a chance to win a championship with the configuration they have.
Look, what's funny is remember last year in that Portland trade, the Suns actually wanted Herro. Like, that's why people thought that trade was going to go off without a hitch. The Suns were willing to throw Ayton in, which the Blazers wanted Ayton for some reason, which I still don't get. He's always injured, and he's worse than Herro in the playoffs. And the Suns wanted Herro. So to me, it's like, okay, Herro's going to be the centerpiece of a trade. I feel like Caleb Martin's going to be involved. The Heat have no need for him. I think he's going to be a free agent, but you could do a sign and trade with him.
Wow, he was disappointing this year, huh? He went backwards.
He just sucked. It sucked.
What looked like a gigantic springboard that he was on last year after the postseason. Didn't you think Caleb Martin was going to be a hell of a player? That of the guys they lost, I mean, they lost Strus and Gabe Vincent, two guys that were essential for him last year and showed real well in the postseason. But you thought, wow, well, at least they held on to Caleb Martin. This guy's really going to be something. And turned out, they could have had Steve Martin on the roster, and they would have been, well, maybe not quite as well served, but nonetheless, that didn't turn out all that well having Caleb Martin there.
Yeah, disappointing season all around. Look, again, Butler, for the fourth straight year, faces injury issues. In the past, he was able to gut it out. This time, it took him out of the playoffs, and that sort of was the beginning of the end. The Heat did get one up in Boston, but their defensive efforts was a shell of what we saw most of the season, and their offense just was flat out horrible. Tyler Herro found a way to play one really good game. The rest of the series, he sucked. Caleb Martin was fantastic last Eastern Conference Finals versus Celtics. He was a disaster most of the season and was horrendous outside of one game in this series versus the Celtics. And then just the injuries were just too much. We keep hearing murmurs of Kevin Durant, possibly Donovan Mitchell. Look, what's funny about Heat fans, and even some reporters have been saying, well, the Heat, it's time the Heat make a move in the offseason. They've tried. Last year, they had it done. They had a top 10 player in the NBA asked to just go to the Heat, and the Heat, in spite of what some of the national media said, had the best offer on the table. As we've seen, Tyler Herro still is a borderline all-star caliber player. Hawkins Jr., Jovic, two really young, nice players. Caleb Martin's a solid player. Like, Duncan Robinson had a really good year until he got hurt. All the pieces the Heat offered were better than any trade that was on the table and any trade that ended up happening for the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard would have fit perfectly with the Miami Heat, and he probably would have been vastly better because the situation with Milwaukee, whether it was with the coach, with the talent around them, was not the ideal situation that it would have been with Miami, and it's why he wanted to go to Miami. The Heat tried. It wasn't their fault that Joe Cronin has no idea how to be a GM, how to handle business. I don't know whether you're bitter or spiteful. It doesn't matter. You take the best deal possible. He literally didn't get any players back. Like, DeAndre Ayton was on the roster, but he did nothing for them. And everyone else that was involved in trades for Lillard, then Drew Holiday, didn't even play. Like, the trades Joe Cronin made were a total disaster for a top 10 player in Damian Lillard. That's not the Heat's fault that the GM literally was as unprofessional as it gets, and by all accounts shouldn't have a job this summer, or within a year won't have a job, because that roster's a disaster, and the Blazers are a total mess. They tried. The Heat were close. It feels like this year they're not going to try. They're going to get it done. They have to add to this roster. Tyler Herro does not work. Tyler Herro, his best role, Udonis Haslam said it nationally. He's not wrong. Tyler Herro's best role is as a sixth man. Okay, well, you can't have your third best player be your sixth man. I mean, teams have done it. This team can't. This team needs a third player, really a second player, because Bam Adebayo gave his all. Bam Adebayo played his best, the best he could. He's not a number 2 on a championship team. He's not. He's a number 3. And at this point in his career, Jimmy Butler, for as good as he can play, with the health issues, with the age, with the wear and tear on his body, he's really probably a number 2 on a championship contender. Kevin Durant's sitting there, and Kevin Durant has flirted with the Heat. The Heat have flirted with Kevin Durant. The Suns have actually had interest, as I said, in Tyler Herro as recent as last year. It's not working there. I know Matt Ishbia, their owner, governor, whatever the hell his title is, came out and said they're not going to blow it up. Maybe they don't blow it up, but what they have is not working in Phoenix. So, and now Durant, look, all the teams that were interested in him in the past, he's still actually a really good player. He's not a top 3 player, but he's still, I would say, a top 10 player in the league. He's still one of the best scorers in the league, a guy that can score at will and actually rebound and play some defense. the contenders in the league, to me, he would throw off a Thunder. He would throw off a T-Wolves, a young team that doesn't need a guy that is as me as Kevin Durant has been in his career. The suitors for Durant this time around, if he is on the trading block, if he is available, I don't think are as vast as they've been in the past. He's not as good. He's older, big money, and the good teams are younger. And the good teams really, to me, are all about chemistry. It wouldn't make sense to add a guy like him. The Heat, however, need to win now. The Heat are mixing young and old, and with Butler, with Riley, where they are in their careers, they want to win now. They need to win now. And what they need is pure scoring. They have the defense. They have the culture. They have the mindset. They need a guy that can just score. Like that's this series, their issue, their offense was abysmal. They need scoring. Durant fits perfect. More now as much as ever. And his price should be less. And what the Heat have is assets. They have picks. They have young guys in Jovic and Hawkins Jr. And they have a young guy in Herro who's proven. He's not for the Heat, but he could work for a Suns, a team that's sort of trying to rebuild on the fly. We'll see. The rumors are out there about Kevin Durant. Donovan Mitchell does not want to be in Cleveland. Another guy the Heat have gone after. It'll be an interesting offseason for Miami. I think this time around they do make moves. They do make things happen. When will it happen? Who knows? The playoffs are still going on. The New York Knicks will move on. Again, another team that was badly compromised. Look, Joel Embiid actually played really well. For a guy that's struggled with his injuries in the playoffs and succumbed to them this year, he had 3 really good games, 3 really good all-around games, even though it was clear he was hurt. I don't care what Knick fans will tell you because they want to have, well, we really beat the best. No, you didn't. Embiid couldn't move. I mean, the way he was moving up and down the floor was horrendous. His defensive movement, and the guy's pretty athletic. He couldn't move on defense. He was a shell of himself in abilities and physical abilities and movement, mobility, but the guy played really well. In at least 3 of these games in this series. Sixers almost did it, almost stayed alive for a game 7. We're not able to do it. The Knicks move on. They'll take on the Indiana Pacers, a team that actually, to me, has more talent than the Knicks, but they're young, and they're not consistent enough. And the fact that they gave up 2 games to a Bucks team that was missing Giannis the entire series and had a banged-up Damian Lillard and at times didn't have Damian Lillard says a lot about the Pacers. They're a young team. They're fun. They're interesting. They actually are talented, and they're pretty well coached with Rick Carlisle, but they're just young, and this Knicks team is, what I will give them is they're tough, they're savvy, they're gritty, and they have good coaching Tibbs. I don't see how the Knicks don't get past the Pacers. My thing is, and as a guy who is a Heat fan, and we hate the Celtics these days, I don't see the Knicks representing much of a blockage to those Celtics. I just don't see it. To me, it feels like the Celtics, and actually, I don't like the Celtics roster. I think their roster is massively overrated. I think, look, Peyton Pritchard and Derek White and Hauser had their moments versus the Heat, but, like, come on. Like, those are barely NBA players. But the East is vastly compromised with the Heat and Butler and the Sixers with a banged-up Embiid and the Bucks not having Giannis at all. So it's sort of been a cakewalk for the Celtics, and I think that'll continue. It feels like they're going to find themselves in the finals. Now, I do think it probably is the Nuggets, but even if it's not, if it's the T-Wolves or the Thunder, I think they're vastly better, well-rounded, deeper than the Celtics. So I think the Celtics don't win a title, but it feels like they will find themselves in the NBA Finals. We shall see where NBA playoffs moving forward. Our Panthers are in the second round, waiting their opponent as those Boston Bruins seem to be the next up for the Panthers. Nope. Struggling with the Toronto Maple Leafs after a 3-1 lead. We'll see who the Panthers will face. We'll talk a lot about that. Check us out each and every morning. South Florida Live on YouTube and Facebook. Check us out on our national podcasts, plural. We do one for No Filter every single day. The Morning Briefing, just Google Caffeine TV, The Morning Briefing. Or we have a national podcast with the Believe Network. We do sports, but a lot more out. We have really fun and interesting conversations outside and inside the world of sports. BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And our South Florida content right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.